Mike, thanks for coming here and sharing your time with us. This has been terrific. What we thought we'll do now is, we just met him. He's the TA for the class, and he's been in touch with the students. We also sent out a bunch of students, links to the site and so forth, and they hopefully downloaded portions of your book. And they sent us a whole bunch of questions. So we thought we'll just have a conversation on some of these things. But I wanted to point out the really cool products over here. They are really cool.
Thank you.
I think the whole Italian sort of fashion eyewear kind of thing is right there in front of us.
Yeah, it's been fun to sort of get into the fashion industry. I mean, I was a computer science nerd my whole life, so the fact that I work in the fashion industry now is kind of funny.
Cool.
Yeah.
The other question over here, which I thought was interesting, is obviously lots of cool things. Working with fashion designers, working with terrific organizations doing great work, but bringing eyesight to poor people and so on. But what's the tough part of being the CEO of the company?
That's a big question. There's quite a few tough parts, I would say. One thing that I found is that I do enough stuff and there's enough things going on in the company that no matter what, something's just going to go wrong every day. Something will fail miserably, it'll break, we won't know why, some customer will get super mad at us, or just something will go wrong, and it's ideally I try to train the other people in the company like, hey, like, if you don't know the answer, I'm just going to make it up, so if you can make it up, like the two things that I say is it cool, and are we helping somebody? Okay, then yeah, it's a good idea. But sort of dealing with all of the different things that come up and staying level-headed and knowing that I need to be a leader for the other 20 or so folks working on the company now is definitely one of the challenges. I would say the other thing, and I don't typically really get stressed out. The only time I really get stressed is when it comes to money and sort of looking at the budget and, it's almost the end of the month. How are we going to pay all of the bills? And this month is actually the first time we'll be paying a couple staff members, so now we have to meet payroll and that sort of stuff. But overall, I really love being the CEO. It's a great opportunity to be a leader and share my experiences with the rest of the team. As I mentioned, we started it with Jonathan, and then I was the number 2 guy. We hired my undergrad lab partner in computer science as our basically third employee. But over the summer, we really ramped up a lot and had over 100 part-time people working for us. So just kind of dealing with that many people located all over the country. It's basically part-time folks committing 5 or 10 hours a week and trying to understand what projects are they working on and making sure they feel engaged and they have a clear goals that they're working towards. It's been a challenge, but I think we learned a lot from the summer, and now we've got about 25 folks or so this fall, and it's a little bit more manageable and a lot more people working in the same space. I've found, as much as I love the idea of the company being location independent and hey, I can go anywhere that it's sunny and call it a business trip, which is good, by the way. That's a good perk.
That's a good part.
I have found it's best for the company for me to be in the office in DC at Punch Rock. We have a co-working space there, and being able to sit next to the other folks working on it and just look on their shoulder and say, hey, just change it that way, as opposed to 5 emails or whatever it may be. But yeah, overall it's fun. I mean,
so people, money, coordination, those are the 3 headaches.
Yeah, I'd say.
Interesting.
That's.
Do you have any?
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
So I'm a graduating senior here at Maryland, and I wanted to ask you about your second thoughts and sort of getting cold feet, if you ever did, leaving Deloitte and jumping into Waveborn. So more along the lines of, did you ever get cold feet or second guess yourself? Because, as we were talking, Deloitte is a great place to work, especially for people who want to quote-unquote jumpstart their career. So did you ever?
Yeah. So one of my first pieces of advice is like, for people who already are out of school and have a job, like, you don't quit your job on Friday and then start your new company on Monday. I was doing Waveborn for a year in advance while working full-time at Deloitte and taking grad classes, and I ask people, like, you can have your 9 to 5 or you have your classes, whatever, but what do you do from 7 to 2 in the morning? That's when you start your business. That's when you put in the time to build it and know that, hey, this is a legitimate thing that can be sustainable. In April, I guess, of last year, as grad school was kind of wrapping up, I knew I wanted to kind of sit down and reevaluate my life and what did I want to be doing, and I knew sitting in a queue for 40 years and climbing the corporate ladder wasn't exactly for me. So luckily, I left on very good terms with Deloitte. I put in my 6-week notice, and I helped roll somebody new onto the project I was working on. But when I told my family and my roommate and some of my close friends, hey, I'm leaving this very well-paying job that's very stable to move to the beach and sell sunglasses, I wouldn't say I got the most positive responses. So that was one of the harder things, was really dealing with, to some extent, the lack of support and kind of having to know internally that, hey, this was the right decision for me. And I did put some timelines in place, knowing that by basically like next September, if things haven't worked out and the money's not quite there, I do always have a job at Deloitte to go back to. So I could step back into that role. I could look for a new company. But there's definitely been some struggles along the ways. We talked a little bit about the money and the stress of that, and how do I pay my rent? How do I feed myself? I'm pitching to investors. I'm pitching to friends and family and saying, hey, like, let me borrow some money. You can invest it in the company. We'll pay you with a 5% interest rate. Or now we have a convertible note for a 15% interest rate for next year. Now I feel a lot better about the company than I did maybe a few months ago. We had a very successful summer, so it's definitely a struggle. But I think the idea of like putting your head down and just working really hard and knowing that, hey, I'm putting in these 12, 14-hour days, I'm building the business, I'm going on networking, I'm building great relationships, this is going to pay off, you know? And it's definitely that mindset of I'm committed to this, and I'm going to find other people who care and want to support me and help grow the business.
Got it.
In terms of scaling up, right? Again, I'm threading off one of the questions that some of the students asked. Have you considered maybe selling through another online retailer, eBay or Amazon or something like that? An Amazon store, for example, perhaps might really bring you a ton of customers.
Yeah, so we've looked into that. We're on a few other online stores. So we have Ethical Ocean is an online store we've been on for a while. All of their products have some sort of social good aspect to it. Actually, last week we had a huge flash sale on Plunder.com. They're kind of like Jack Threads or one of those online daily deal sites. And they have like 2.5 million members, and we're able to get our product out to a much wider audience than our typical website traffic. So we saw some great sales in there. It was a great way to kind of acquire some new customers and also learn about the whole process of doing a flash sale. Like now we can go to Jack Threads or Gilt or some of the other ones and say, hey, we know how to do this. We read their 16-page document they sent us about how this stuff works, and we put UPC codes on the boxes, and we can do wholesale shipping and that sort of stuff. We haven't, we looked into eBay and didn't quite have any traction when we first did it. And I do think there's some more opportunities with Amazon, but we haven't quite had somebody commit to that. But
we need to hit maybe a little bit more scale or something like that before it becomes really valuable.
Yeah.
To do that.
We're definitely always looking for more online and now like physical retail stores as well to get our product out and in front of as many folks as possible.
What's been the most successful marketing campaign? Something that's worked really well, which surprised you, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I would say our biggest marketing campaign was the crowdfunding campaign, and like we put together like a 1.5-minute video for that took a 1.5 months to film and edit a 1.5-minute video, but that worked out really well. We've also done a lot of Ultimate Frisbee sponsorships. So I'm wearing this is the DC Current Major League Ultimate Frisbee jersey. So we're the official sunglasses of Major League Ultimate, and we've started partnering.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's actually awesome. It's a lot of fun. I went to grad school in part to play Ultimate, and now I coach Georgetown's Frisbee team, and I've actually coached a bunch of the Maryland Frisbee guys over the summer on a club team as well. So being such a focal point in the Ultimate community, we have, I think, let's see some of these shades. So these are the official sunglasses of Major League Ultimate.
Wow.
The MLU logo on there.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Let's try that on.
Yeah. Looking pretty good. So we set up this partnership with them in January. So before I went out to California, and they invested some money in the company, we were able to make these custom frames. It's the first time we got custom logos of somebody else's logo on there, as well as those were our first polarized lenses. So that partnership has really allowed us to get some good momentum. We were also on SportsCenter 4 times on the top 10 plays. So like I paused the TV and I took a picture and the Waveborn logo, like that's there on ESPN. Like That's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited to kind of continue working with them moving forward as we grow the business.
So some of these partners actually are investors in your business as well.
Yes. So what MLU did back in January, we were very cash flow poor, basically. Whereas they had some money, and we said, hey, we can go make these shades, but we need you to front the money to go get them made, and we can give you some good wholesale pricing, and we have like a revenue sharing models set up. So it was great to have their support there and let us go place that first like big spring order.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, so I understand that the price points are around $85 for your sunglasses, so relatively expensive. How do you compete with Ray-Ban or Oakley or these other luxury brand sunglass companies that do have a wider variety of shades and colors and styles?
Yeah.
So how do you
how do we differentiate?
yourself?
Yeah. So a couple things. One, I think like you made the kind of like 85 it's relatively expensive. We're certainly not the $10 boardwalk shades that you can lose and break and everything. And one of the ways we try to compete is, one, we are made in Italy. We do have a high quality product that's designed in Milan. There's a very large organization called Luxottica that owns about...
Right. That's a huge outfit.
They own about 80% of the frames on the planet. They own Oakley, they own Ray-Ban, Sunglass Hut, Pearle Vision, all sorts of different stuff. So we don't work with them. So we're kind of battling against them, but enjoying that since we don't have to have them in our supply chain, we're able to not have all the markups that they have. I mean, I think some of their frames, they're charging 10 times what it costs to make them. We try to be much more affordable. We do have new lenses that are also bumping up the cost. So like polarized lenses are now $40 more to get those put in. And we can also do prescription with different mirror coatings, anti-reflective coating, or scratch-proof coating. And all of those are sort of add-ons to increase the quality. The price of the glasses also goes up, but that's partially like it's based on what does it cost us to get them made in Minnesota or from Zeiss lenses in Italy.
Pretty interesting. I mean, it to me as a person who interested in globalization a lot, this is Italian fashion, with an American sort of entrepreneurial business system built around it, helping people in the third world. I think it's pretty neat. The combination of all of these things coming together is really cool.
Yeah, and that's a lot where I see the future of the business going is international. So I think we've shipped shades to 18 different countries.
Wow.
So far. So
awesome.
In the past month, I think we sent some to Germany. We had Israel, New Zealand, Spain, a couple others.
Right.
And like one of our big focuses over the next couple months is getting into Brazil. So that's sort of the first big international market that we're targeting, knowing that the World Cup's going to be there next year.
Of course.
And the whole world's going to kind of convene on Rio.
That's pretty smart.
If we can get our product into stores, we can figure out the supply chain. We've done some research. I think Brazil charges like a 77% tax on imports.
Wow.
Which is not particularly friendly. So what we've realized is we want to get them made in Italy. I don't want them to come to the U.S. at all. Ship them straight from Italy. We'll have relatively cheap wholesale prices that we're getting, so the taxes aren't as bad. We just need to then
ship it directly to Brazil.
And then have like a wholesale distribution center that can package them up, put them in the pouches. We have like different cards and everything that go with them.
Nice.
So we're working on sort of building that out. But I'm optimistic like that's going to really allow us to get international, and if we can set up different distribution centers in different continents and countries. Like I'd like to make this a worldwide thing, and as I mentioned, like the two new nonprofits we're working with, we don't just want to be this small little thing in the U.S. We want to be an international sunglasses brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrific. I wanted to shift to a different question. Everything that I've heard so far and everything that you've done is so fast-paced, so cutting edge, but yet your book that you've written, Becoming So Good They Cannot Ignore You, sort of suggests some different tone. Don't get too passionate about things, but be involved and take pride in your craft. Tell me the thinking behind it and what the message is.
Sure. So my book was inspired by a book that was actually written by one of my grad school professors in computer science at Georgetown, and it talks about the craftsman mindset and the idea that you shouldn't just follow your passion whimsically. I mean, to be honest, like I went to college, I think, to design video games and learn how to program to do that, which isn't exactly where I wound up as a sunglass salesman. But the craftsman mindset focuses on the idea of putting your head down and working really hard on developing specific skills. And as you stretch outside your comfort zone, you're going to fail. And I think failure and embracing failure is extremely important in entrepreneurship. The idea you can throw 10 things at the wall and see what 3 stick and focus on those. And if I'm taking a calculus test and I get 100% on it every single time, well, stop learning calculus. Maybe go learn abstract math or something. Challenge yourself to try to learn new ideas, and know that you're getting better by failing. Like knowing that, hey, I thought I could win this game, but I just wasn't quite good enough. I need to train harder. A lot of the book and a lot of that mindset also comes from my ultimate frisbee playing.
Right.
And I mean, we're practicing 2-3 times a week, doing track workouts, traveling most weekends to tournaments. We're playing 6 or 7 games, and a lot of it is that mindset of, hey, we may have just lost that last point, but we know we're going to go score this next one, Or maybe even we lost this game, but that doesn't mean the tournament's over. That doesn't mean we can put our heads down. We need to go get back up and battle again. And as far as the working world is concerned, like to move up within your career, you need to acquire career capital, which is basically like rare and valuable skills. Like, what are you good at that other people aren't? Like, I'm not particularly good at Photoshop, so when I find people who can do Photoshop, I'm pretty excited to have them get involved and help us with some marketing stuff. And you get better at Photoshop or whatever that skill is by practicing it, by working every day or once a week or whatever it may be on developing those skills and kind of stretching outside your comfort zone. One of the other things I talk about in the book is how do you define success? So when you're in school, you get a 90% or better, and that's an A, you're doing great. If you're a quarterback in the NFL and Joe Flacco's hitting 60% of his passes, he's doing pretty well. If you play baseball and you get a hit 1/3 of the time, you're doing great. In e-commerce sales, if we convert 2% of the people who go to our website to actually buy a pair of sunglasses, we're crushing it. We can literally fail 98% of the time
And still win.
Pretty neat. And it also allows you to sort of backtrack and do the math. Well, if we're going to get 2%, how many people do we need? Do we need to get 5,000 people to sell 100 pairs of shades or whatever it may be? But reevaluating how you define success and knowing that, well, let me try these 10 different things, place these little bets, and see what is it that sticks. Like one of the things that's been cool with designing the frames is a lot of them have different logos on the outside or different sayings or hashtags on the inside. Some of them have like a new Wave logo etched in on the lens right there. So that's a new thing we added. And in each batch we tried different things, and then we know, okay, for the next one, like these have the logos in white because they used to be in gold and you couldn't see them.
You couldn't see it, right?
And we didn't want, like, this is a new brand, we want you to recognize the logo. So we wanted to make sure that it was white and colored in so you could easily see it from far away.
Neat.
So those sort of experiments in whatever you're working on help you to grow and kind of develop more skills and take more control of your working life.
Terrific. I think that's such a wonderful perspective, and it's so useful for the guys in the class to listen to this, because it seems like a lot of people are in too much of a hurry to be successful. In fact, one of the nice things I think that's happened in recent times is, while the dot-com boom, I mean, I lived through the dot-com boom where everybody just sort of thought they'll be millionaires in an instant. But now it's actually a little bit better, because you got to work at something, you got to make it right, you got to make it well, you got to distinguish yourself from the competition in a significant way. And that requires this mindset that you're talking about. I think it's terrific. It's a great lesson for the class.
Yeah, and it definitely aligns too with the idea of like hustling. Like I'm always hustling. I'm working hard. I'm going from one place to the other. And if there's 24 hours in a day, one thing that I do now that I've kind of finished school in Deloitte is I sleep 8 hours every night. And I may be up to 1, 2, 3 in the morning working, but then I'm going to sleep my 8 hours and I know I can go work for another 16. And of those 16 hours, I'd say about 14 of them I'm actively working on something, whether it's Waveborn or running the co-working space at Punch Rock or coaching or playing Frisbee. I'm doing something to improve and develop the skills continually, and that over time, over years and years, like that's how you get better at things.
Right.
And I also think, as you guys are just starting and coming out of school, like your career is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right.
Like, cool, you can do something great and that lasts for a couple months or whatever, but I definitely recommend establishing good relationships and knowing that the people that are in this Hinman CEOs program with you may be working with you for the next 40 years. I mean, our CIO at Waveborn was my computer science lab partner in undergrad, and my best friend and roommate through grad school, he was going to med school, was my physics lab partner at Boston College. So I mean, there's something to be said for who are the folks you work with in college, and those are lasting relationships and people that you can work well together. And a lot of what I do now is also connecting people. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people from different walks of life, and I'll say, hey, Charlie meet John, John meet Charlie, this is what Charlie does. this is what John does. I think you guys should talk about this. Go do business or go
It's like a
whatever
little
it may be.
dating game thing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. There's a mobile app called Hinge, which is like a friend of friend dating app.
Okay.
And I know the founder. He works in a co-working space in DC. And when you match, they like intro and they have a fun little intro. And I've been talking to him like, hey, we should start a company or make a program or something that can just introduce people we know and save me the like 2 hours a day of these intro emails if I just
Right.
have little blurbs and
That's
could
right. That's
match
actually
it
pretty
together.
neat.
Yeah. So give it a couple months. That might
That'll
be coming
happen.
out. Yeah.
Terrific. Anyway, thank you so much for coming and stopping by our studio. I mean, we run this thing like a talk show at this point, so I'm pretty pleased with it. And I think the students are really going to enjoy it. So thanks again, Mike, and
Thank
best
you.
of luck to you. This has been a great experience and a terrific company.
Great. Yeah, and thanks a lot, students. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out and follow up with me. I'd be happy to tell you more about Waveborn or give you some insights on whatever companies and projects you guys are working on. And best of luck with wrapping up the year.